Well, look at that date. Because at the end of this, you're going to hear me talking about some things that are relevant today. It's amazing, right? Not really so much. You just have to watch for it. You have to look for it. You have to think about it. I didn't post this originally because I have a bunch of stuff that I've put down that I just never release. The reason why I didn't do it for this one is because the audio quality is poop. And I guess I was shaving with my electric clippers in the background or something. I don't know, dude. But oftentimes I won't even do it because it sounds too ranty. And this might have been it, but I'm telling you, look at the date, September 2019. And what I say at the very tail end of this about the black community will astound you. Because I replayed it and I was like, man, if they would have listened to this and got it, damn. Just damn. My first exposure to a conspiracy was when I was very, very young. My age is irrelevant. But you'll be able to figure this one out pretty quick. If you like to fact check. The Super Nintendo, I was in grade school. And I lived in an apartment complex. And actually it wasn't even the Super Nintendo, it was the regular Nintendo that had just come out. And so I was in grade school. And I had a next door neighbor. Very, he was one of those guys that other adults were, oh, you should stay away from him, he's messed up, he's crazy. But inadvertently, at some point in time, you, as people that are around you, you talk to them, and all of a sudden you start realizing this guy's not really crazy, he's just kind of weird. Not crazy in a harmful manner, but he was just not talking as the other adults would be talking. Not covering the subject matter that the sheep, the masses, other adults, the conformists were talking about. He was talking about things maybe a child shouldn't have been hearing about, but it planted seeds. And back in those days, email wasn't prevalent. Cell phones weren't prevalent. You had, and if you can tell in this modern day and time, media can be manipulated. Just because you're reporting on something, and yes, I have taken a journalism college course. Okay, for those of you paying attention, I did take journalism. Okay, so it can be manipulated. You can take something to your editor, and your editor can steer you a certain direction, or pretty much anything can. Hey, you want a good review? Hey, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to invite you to our restaurant. We're going to make sure that shit is the best shit you ever put in your mouth. Hey, even though it's a one-time event, we're going to make this cool. You get a good review, boom, you got some business, but the place is not upheld to that standard on a constant basis, so you're ending up promoting someplace that is pretty hip. Just think about it whenever you would get those surprise inspections to clean your room as a child. You clean that room really good. On a normal basis, though, you throw shit under your bed. So, but you knew when to clean the house and when not to clean the house. That's the moral of that. This guy was a vet, a Vietnam vet, and he would sit there, talk about how crooked the government was, talk about the aspects of things that normal people just didn't want to deal with on a forefront level, but things that needed to be discussed, things that he couldn't really. The thing about conspiracies is that people without facts and things right in front of them, 9 times out of 10, they don't even want to hear about it. It's speculatory. But here's the other 1 out of 10. Even if it's proven, they still don't want to hear about it because it messes up their Starbucks and chocolate chip cookies and their episodes of Game of Thrones. Which I heard the final episode did enough of that for itself. But this guy would sit there and he would tell me, man, this was a lie, there was nothing there, there was da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, I grew up in a military town, and I've had military folks in my life. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, most of these conspirators, or what I would say that led me into a conspiracy that was not going with the normal thing, were soldiers. And why would that be? Because they weren't in the PR department. They weren't in the, what was the word that they call that shit? Propaganda. They weren't part of the propaganda. If you don't know what propaganda means, look it up. I don't know if this will get flagged, take down, or whatever. I don't know. I'm pretty under the radar. I don't have a big following. But if you listen to my words, you'll get some fruits. Which is good. I like that. This guy was so adamant about the crookedness and the deception about Vietnam, which we've now in decades past have found out to be, well, a less illustrious and an economic war than we were led to believe initially. But this guy said, man, I promise you don't ever go. But the thing about it is that what's funny about these conspirators and why these people start slapping this PSTS, post-traumatic syndrome and all of this shit. Oh, they're not right. They're crazy. The war messed them up. No, the war didn't mess them up. You're not listening to what these people are saying. These people were found fit through arduous physical training, through arduous mental inspection to go, the only time that somebody's going to slap a gun into somebody's hand and pat them on the ass and say, go do what you got to do, is in the event of a draft. Otherwise, there are stipulations, there's regulations, there's things in place to get these guys. And I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to make light of people that actually do suffer from this type of mental disorders or psychological, pressures. Not in the least. But I think it's a very big cape, a very good, cloak to put over the whole situation to say, oh, well, they're messed up. These guys went onto the foreground. They heard the orders. They saw firsthand what was going on. They don't have a voice. Their voice is emitted after the fact on an individual level. They were not given, free rein to come out and tell their stories. It was all word of mouth. And that's what one of the big things is. Like, now you have internet. You have instant accessibility. For the most part. But back then, you didn't. You had these crazies who served in the war. And yeah, some of the things that this guy would say was, out of context. You don't tell somebody in grade school, hey man, if you ever put up into the war, you just put some peanut butter in your butt crack, and when they pull your pants down, they inspect you, and they say, what is that? You just put your finger across it, put it in your mouth, say, taste it, say, oh, it's peanut butter. They'll slap you right outside the door. That's how you get out of going to war. Why would somebody, this man obviously enlisted. Now, I do understand that sometimes you enlist to get a check and all of this, but there's a certain sense of pride that goes along with it. This guy was prideful. He loved his country. I'm going to tell you that right now. He loved his country. He believed in the epitome of American, of America, the flag, duty. Which brings me back to the duty situation. Why would he try to guide younger people into opposition of serving in the country? It's because he was lied to. Okay? He was lied to. Now, I'm not saying that every faction and every branch and every, base or superior or anything like that is that way. But I am saying the potential is there. Okay? I also want to say about the Trump situation and about this that you shouldn't make any mistake. I'm going to do a top 10 channels that I find highly informative. That'll probably be in my next video. But let's not make a mistake here. Trump is the lesser of the two evils. Okay? He's a puppet. And he only has as limited power as he can. We've been at this thing for 3 years, and look how much traction. He's still in opposition and fighting him for his own shit. Because the government doesn't fall on one person. And it sure the fuck doesn't fall to the people. Basically, the changing of the guard, the Democrats, they want to keep you where you're at. Okay? Under control. That's pretty much how everything is with the government. I mean, we fought the English to avoid taxation, Boston Tea Party, all of that shit, only to find ourselves under the rule of, guess what, another taxating government. Now, understand that in order to have a government, you have to have compensation for these people. Get it, got it, good. But let's really take a look at that. Do you think that the only thing, in my opinion, you do your own research because it's just my opinion, the only thing that's going to differ about this politician, the Republican change of the guard versus the Democrat change of the guard, is the copacetic state that people are supposed to be in and the high saturation of blackmail. You can interpret that however you wish. But if you look to think that there are politicians that do not receive favors and are not blackmailed, then you need to have a cup of coffee and wake the fuck up, my friend. The varying degrees of blackmail is totally different. I'm not going to say the P word. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But there is a natural, I'm not going to say natural. There is a dark order, and that branch of the government has deemed that passable, acceptable. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then that's even better, I guess. But you really need to execute your constitutional right and get yourself some knowledge. So basically, I'm just telling you, with this, the conspiracies might be some fruit to them. It's up to you to use your constitutional right to investigate and use your intelligence, your God-given intelligence and discernment. Follow the breadcrumbs. I've been following these breadcrumbs since I was a kid, since this guy was telling me that the government, hey, we used to hear about it in the songs. Remember that Lenny Kravitz song? What the fuck are we saying? The government's at the devil's hands. Think about it. Why would a man get on a microphone, take the time to pen those words out alongside a guitar? He is a very reputable musician who can write a catchy song. There are people that have told you this. You're not listening. You have not been listening. Just like you haven't been listening to the other side, infiltrating and watering down spirituality, positive spirituality. These people have sun-sued us to death. They've sun-sued us into submission to where we are based. There are those that are based in poor communities. Public housing. I'm talking about rows of it. They don't even know who their neighbors are. The only time that they want to conjoin up is if it's beneficial to them and they can loot in a riot. I'm not going racial on this thing because you don't even know what my race is. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I'm mad. I'm a member of the human race. I'm an observer. But I'm telling you what's going on. And if you have a comment that could prove me otherwise, you watch from your cell phone in disgust. You share stuff. Whatever. But when's the last time you went to a community meeting, crime watch meeting, neighborhood, do something for your neighborhood? What, was that in the 70s? Bitch, I hate to say it. No, I won't say it. But it's time for the people to start registering their life and their thoughts towards positivity. Put down that greed for a little bit. It's nice to have more than what it takes to eat by on. But it's time that we all become something better and bigger than we are for our children. For our children. We'll get up there and bitch about stuff. Get up there and whine about stuff. And by God, don't participate. Get up there, stand up. Because what's going to be left to inherit? The meek will inherit the earth. The meek are your children because they don't understand. They haven't ever seen any leadership that's been on a positive level. They've seen riots. They've seen anger. They haven't seen a Million Man March, man. Our kids, no. And stop letting them listen to this bullshit ass music. Drive them straight down, kid. That's in my ranch. Hey, hey.